Khalil Gibran wrote, "Keep me away from the philosophy that does not laugh, the religion that does not cry, and the greatness that does not bow before children." On today's extra special episode of Headless Clown Radio, we find out why Senator Ted Cruz had declared war on women's orgasms, how barbecue states are proving boys don't cry and big girls don't cry wrong, and how the man who was once two unfortunate accidents away from the Oval Office was actually a pedophile. With all the attention on a certain Republican candidate, I thought you and I should take a look at the other guy. Ted Cruz is a conservative dream. He has pushed for such patriotic and constitutional ideas as the Ten Commandments being put at the Capitol building, keeping under God in the pledge, restricting poor people from voting since state IDs and driver's licenses cost money, and even making sure the world court knows that violating the Vienna Convention is okay as long as a brown person is the one going to prison. But my favorite Cruz missile is his attempt to keep Texans from buying dildos. In 2007, Ted Cruz and his legal team filed a 76-page brief to uphold a law in Texas that bans the sale of obscene objects. One line in the filing says, "The Texas Penal Code prohibits the sale of dildos, artificial vaginas, and other obscene devices." The irony of anything banning rubber dicks and pocket pussies being called a penal code is a bit absurd. Mr. Cruz may not be the right guy for the job because even with the libido of a 16-year-old 2 weeks out of every month, sometimes I was so stressed out from work that husband's little helper was required to fulfill my spousal obligation of getting her off. I was a DJ, a stressful job, but not a factor in the lives of an entire state or nation. If Cruz never gets tied up in his work so much that he can't perform at his peak in the bedroom or on the front porch if he's the type, I don't think he would make a good POTUS. Or worse, maybe he's one of those guys who doesn't care as long as he gets his, in which case he should not only not be president, but should be given a 4-year term of blue balls so he knows how it feels. North Carolina and other states are making a big noise with their religious freedom laws banning trans people from using bathrooms. The concern is some biological male might go into a women's room and assault women and girls. 47% of trans people, including RuPaul, have actually been arrested nationwide for really nothing more than creeping some square out by not looking or sounding like their skirt should make them sound. First, religious freedom and forcing others to live by your religion are not the same thing. Second, no one in the history of the world has fought for the right to use a bathroom because they wanted to hurt somebody. They just want to pee. Let the tranny pee for Christ's sake. Other than the Bible verse banning indoor bathrooms, Deuteronomy 23:12 through 14, telling someone they can't pee because you don't like the way a miniskirt goes with an Adam's apple is not righteous. It's sad. This is why they call it the crying game. Former Speaker of the House Hasters has been accused of child molestation, multiple counts of raping teenage boys when he was a high school wrestling coach. This guy put a chair in the locker room, and not a stool, not a folding chair, a fucking recliner, facing towards the showers. This is just a new charge against a man charged a few years back of bank fraud. Now, he is going to do hard time at Club Fed for stealing from the bank, but is not going to be indicted on child molestation charges because of the statute of limitations being 3 years. If someone tries to change this tragic law, because not all lawmakers are evil, statistically, there has to be one non-evil politician, right? The Catholic Church fights to keep limits on punishing someone for robbing a child of their innocence. Of course, the church, being the bride of Christ, who said, "Suffer the little children and bring them unto me," wants to protect people who make the children suffer. Makes as much sense as pushing for public displays of the Ten Commandments while also pushing for war, death penalty, blocking healthcare, removing food options for the hungry, and worshiping the almighty dollar. Because the private jet shows how righteous Joel Osteen is, and because old men can't bang hot 23-year-olds by having a lot of holiness. Banging the cutie on the JV wrestling team, however. If anyone is capable of writing 76 pages on how horrible for society a sex toy is, and take it seriously, their philosophy does not laugh. If anyone wants people to hold their bladder until they get home because of their dogmatic views and doesn't feel sympathy and grief at this level of oppression, their religion does not cry. And anyone who thinks that being a head of state or a large religious organization allows them to victimize kids without consequences so long as they keep it secret long enough, their greatness does not bow before children. This quote comes from the prophet, Gibran's seminal work, pardon that word with all the sexuality-related stories, a story that generalizes the archetype from the books of the three major religions, about a prophet leaving his followers for paradise and them asking him some final questions. Another quote from the prophet, since these all have to do with the laws, is this. Then a lawyer said, "But what of our laws, master?" And he answered, "You delight in laying down laws, yet you delight more in breaking them, like children playing by the ocean who build sand towers with constancy and then destroy them with laughter. But while you build your sand towers, the ocean brings more sand to the shore, and when you destroy them, the ocean laughs with you. Verily, the ocean laughs always with the innocent. But what of those to whom life is not an ocean, and man-made laws are not sand towers, but to whom life is a rock, and the law a chisel, with which they would carve it in their own likeness? What of the cripple who hates dancers? What of the ox who loves his yoke, and deems the elk and deer of the forest stray and vagrant things? What of the old serpent who cannot shed his skin, and calls all others naked and shameless? And of him who comes early to the wedding feast, and when overfed and tired, goes his way, saying that all feasts are violation, and all feasters lawbreakers? What shall I say of these, save that they too stand in the sunlight, but with their backs to the sun? They see only their shadows, and their shadows are their laws. And what is the sun to them but a caster of shadows? And what is it to acknowledge the laws, but to stoop down and trace their shadows upon the earth? But you who walk facing the sun, what images drawn on the earth can hold you? You who travel with the wind, what weather vane shall direct your course? What man's law shall bind you if you break your yoke, but upon no man's prison door? What law shall you fear if you dance, but stumble against no man's iron chains? And who is he that shall bring you to judgment if you tear off your garment, yet leave it in no man's path? What Gibran put so poetically, I'll say in simple terms, laws are a way to force others to act like you want them to. If everyone acts as they know they should, then what purpose do laws serve? Actually, I'm going to simplify it more and paraphrase from a Jim Carrey movie. In Liar Liar, his character is a lawyer who gets called by a criminal client after the curse of not being able to lie is put on him. His client asks for advice on criminal charges, and this unwillingly honest defense attorney tells him he should start living within legal limits. So Gibran said, again paraphrasing, "Quit making new laws, asshole!" I know, right now you're calling me a dork, and to that I say yes, and thank you for admiring my mighty whale penis.